What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 8 NFL main slate first look video here over on Sharp Sports Network. I am your host, Joe Bewer, and I'm going to be giving you my first look and my favorite plays so far for this Week 8 NFL slate. I'm super excited to get into this, but before we do, I got a few things I want to talk about here. One of these being last night's showdown slate that we absolutely crushed. So if you weren't in the private live stream and you're a member on our site, you would have seen that we were pretty big on Sony Michel in the private live stream, as well as Philip Dorsett. Both Sony Michel had 3 touchdowns. Philip Dorsett had 1. Julian Edelman was fairly chalky. Tom Brady as well. James White ended up securing it for us at the end, getting about 5 catches in one of the drives that Brady had at the end of the third quarter, which was super helpful as he was pretty chalky as well. But cheat sheet and everything over on the website, everybody was balling and cashing, so it was super awesome bounce back night from that terrible day in the Eagles-Cowboys game. Now, before we move forward, we have our website over here, sharpsportsnetwork.com, where you can pick up some incredible apparel if you haven't already. Super awesome signature designs. Go ahead and grab one if you haven't already. The most important thing in today's video is our partnership with Fantasy Draft. You're going to be seeing them in all of our videos moving forward, NFL and NBA. We are fully integrating them into our website. It is incredible. You can use our code SHARPSPORTS when you are signing up. You get yourself some rake-free experience. Fantasy Draft won't be taking any of your winnings away because they are a rake-free site, especially when you use our code. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would really help us out. So let's jump back over to DraftKings here, where we can get a good look at the main slate here that we have, especially on DraftKings, FanDuel, and then we'll look at some fantasy draft plays as well. This is a very condensed week. I'm very interested in a few plays here. So far throughout the first look, I'm very interested in the Seattle-Atlanta game. Russell Wilson is going into Atlanta after getting a loss at the hands of the Ravens last week. The passing defense for the Falcons is actually quite atrocious. They allow 274 passing yards per game. They have allowed 124 points scored against them in the past 3 games. Russell Wilson coming in averaging 25.4 fantasy points per game. Atlanta is allowing quarterbacks throughout the year to average 33.5 fantasy points per game. Cash games, Russell Wilson is almost a guaranteed lock for me. I love him in cash games here. He's just been incredible lately. If we just look at his game log, he has been putting up points left and right. I really like this matchup against Atlanta. They allow Jared Goff to go all over him, so I'm really excited here. So I'm going to run through the positions here, kind of where I'm looking. Another cash game quarterback I like is Deshaun Watson. He's been going off lately, and he's going to have to be pretty stout in this matchup. With the passing, the Oakland Raiders are 31st in the league, allowing 290 yards per game. They're just not stopping the pass at all. Their secondary is just completely depleted right now. Deshaun Watson should have an absolute field day. But I think in cash games, I would still rather pay $100 more for Russell Wilson. Just makes a lot more sense here in this spot, as we already know that Atlanta is just terrible. But Deshaun Watson is going to be faced with a few issues this week. There will be no Will Fuller, so Kiki Cootie and Kenny Stills are going to have to step up in that secondary slot role. But we'll get to that later on in the wide receiving player pool. So for cash games, I'm really on Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson just for this first look. Moving down here, I'm pretty big on a few quarterbacks here for GPP purposes. I kind of really like Kyler Murray bounce back this week. Didn't have a good week against the Giants. The Giants' terrible defense. New Orleans, not too stout. They rank decently against the pass. Kyler Murray loves to pass. I expect a lot of check down passes this week from Kyler Murray. The New Orleans Saints let the Bears put points up on him. So if the Bears can put points on him, Kyler Murray can do the same. So I'm a very big fan of Kyler Murray this week. And then last on my list would be Gardner Minshew against the Jets. We saw the Jets get absolutely pummeled last night against the Patriots. I expect Minshew Mania to be somewhat of a popular GPP option here. The Jets are just nothing stout when it comes to defense. He's put up some solid points other than the Week 6 against New Orleans. I think that Gardner Minshew and a DJ Chark pairing could be very popular in GPP. So just to recap, GPP purposes, I like Gardner Minshew and Kyler Murray first look, and then cash, I love Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. If I had to choose, it would be Russell Wilson for me, cash. So for me, a couple plays I like at running back. I'm a big fan of Saquon Barkley this week. I think that the Giants are going to definitely use him as a workhorse back, as the Lions allow 139 rushing yards per game this season, 28th ranked. I think Saquon, after last week coming back scoring a touchdown, they give him 18 carries for 72 yards. He should be the chalkiest running back this week, getting a little savings off of Christian McCaffrey, who's going to have a tough matchup against the 49ers. Now, it's going to be a little tough here in this mid-range area. Leonard Fournette and Chris Carson's prices have really started to be where they're supposed to be. Fournette is definitely an option just because of the volume, and Chris Carson has outsnapped Rashard Penny on 90% of the snaps last week, so I could definitely see going Chris Carson here as well. He's a safe play. For me, I'm really looking to see if Alvin Kamara is going to play. If not, Latavius Murray becomes just a virtual lock for me. Last week against the Bears' stout running defense, he put up 35 fantasy points with 2 touchdowns. The Arizona Cardinals are allowing 129.1 rushing yards per game, and they are a pace-up spot for the Saints. So I really think that Latavius Murray can really bust out a few runs here if Alvin Kamara doesn't play, which he's questionable right now. It'll be ruled out for Sunday's game in Chicago, but they're not sure if he's going to play this week. So if he doesn't play, I like Latavius Murray at 5.8K. Now, automatically, the chalkiest play of this week is going to be Ty Johnson with Kerryon out. He came in and played 10 snaps when Kerryon left last week's game against the Vikings, so I like Ty Johnson as well. Now, those cash game plays for me are pretty important. There's one person that I really want to talk about as well, and that's going to be Todd Gurley. Cincinnati ranks dead last when it comes to defending the rush, 189 rushing yards per game. They're 0-7. Todd Gurley is just going to run all over them. I have a good feeling in Todd Gurley today. He caught a touchdown from Jared Goff last week. I think we can definitely we haven't really talked about Todd Gurley too much this year. I think this is a buy up spot for Todd Gurley. I think you can definitely pair Todd Gurley and Saquon Barkley, and that's going to be a solid pairing for you. Gurley's going to get the volume this week. Expect a very heavy rushing week from Sean McVay and the Rams. Now, when it comes to receivers, I want to jump over to NFL Savant real quick. I want to go through my 2 favorite games that I'm targeting and the teams that I'm targeting. I really want to target the Houston Texans here. They're going to be facing the Oakland Raiders. This past week, DeAndre Hopkins had 13 targets. This is without Will Fuller. Without Will Fuller. So Kenny Stills and DeAndre Hopkins kind of led that. Cootie as well had some as well, but red zone targets is where it's kind of stays the same. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a very, very, very important play this week. I think he's going to be very, very popular. I expect a lot of DeAndre Hopkins to be played in cash games and GPPs. He is the most expensive player on the slate. With reason, 8.1K. I think he is pretty much a shoo-in for a solid week. Now, on the other side, I do love the Seattle Seahawks this week. I think this is a great matchup for them to bounce back. Want to throw it back to last week against the Ravens, just so you can kind of get a gauge of sample size for targets. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have just been solid. I think this is a solid pairing, and you can definitely continue to see this pairing. Both of them had a touchdown last week. I definitely think this is going to be a reoccurring occurrence for the Seahawks here. Red zone targets, same thing. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think Tyler Lockett is priced appropriately, but DK Metcalf is just not priced where he should be. He's only 5K. He's got 10 targets last week. I think DK Metcalf is a virtual locked in cash games as well as Tyler Lockett. Now, when it comes to GPP purposes, I think a lot of people are going to go back to the well with Cooper Kupp. Just first look, I think Cooper Kupp is a solid play going up against a depleted Cincinnati defense. He's had the past 2 games he's had his under double-digit performance, which has been kind of killing a lot of fantasy owners this week. So I think a lot of people are still going to go back to the well, but I want to go back to in GPPs, I want to target Detroit Lions again going up against the Giants. They are just atrocious pass defense, 257 yards, allowed 23rd rank. Kenny Galladay he disappeared on the field, and Marvin Jones had 4 touchdowns last week. I think this is a buy low spot for Kenny Galladay at 6.4K. I think he's definitely a very, very solid option in cash and GPPs. And then, of course, we're going to have to talk about Kenny Stills and Kiki Cootie. You're going to be able to play both of those from the Houston side as well, just based on injuries. So just to wrap up cash games, I love Hopkins. I love Tyler Lockett. I love DK Metcalf, and I'm a very big fan of Kenny Golladay. Now, for GPPs, for Kenny Golladay, I love Cooper Kupp in GPPs as well. Matt Ryan is dealing with an injury, so I'm not going to be really targeting too many Atlanta receivers. But Mohamed Sanu did just get traded, so that opens up a lot of space for Calvin Ridley to kind of jump into a more expanded role. If Matt Ryan plays, I like these Atlanta receivers as well. I think that they play a lot better at home, and Calvin Ridley could definitely see an uptick in targets. So, top receivers for me, like I said, Hopkins, Lockett, Metcalf, Golladay. I love them a lot. Calvin Ridley and Cooper Kupp would kind of be GPP plays for me, as well as Julio Jones. Now, I can definitely see going Michael Thomas as well. This all depends on cap space as well, but if I had the option, I'd pay $100 more just to go ahead and get DeAndre Hopkins. Moving on to tight ends, this is definitely a tough spot for me, but I've been a huge fan of Austin Hooper so far this year. If Matt Ryan plays, I love Austin Hooper at 5.5K. For me, Hunter Henry is going to be a lock for me this week. He's been getting an incredible amount of targets the past 2 weeks. Touchdowns galore at 4.9K. He's just way too underpriced. Hunter Henry has to be pretty much a focal point of your lineup. Zach Ertz is also underpriced at 5.1K after having an abysmal performance on that showdown slate. So, defenses, just as a first look, Patriots stand out to me a lot, but the Rams are going to be my favorite defense this week. Andy Dalton has been absolutely atrocious, and I think he continues to stay that way. Now, let's jump over to FanDuel, just to run through kind of the same thing that I was running through before. Let me get to there. We will be targeting mostly the same players here on this slate, but the pricing is a little bit different for me. Quarterback, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, it stays the same for me. But the thing that is a little interesting to me is the fact that Gardner Minshew is so underpriced, and so is Kyler Murray. I kind of like going with a little more GPP approach here and paying down for quarterback, because these guys are pretty high priced if you ask me. Russell Wilson is still my favorite quarterback on the slate, but I think Kyler Murray should be a shoe-in here on FanDuel. Now, running back-wise, Saquon still gets the nod. He gets a $1,000 decrease from Christian McCaffrey, which is still projected to be important, but I think Saquon gets a more expanded role here against a terrible Detroit defense, who is not going to be able to stop Saquon Barkley. Chris Carson is priced over Leonard Fournette on this slate, which makes me only love Todd Gurley even more at 7.4K. I think you can definitely look for Todd Gurley here on this slate. Moving down lower, Latavius Murray, 6.2K if he does play. And then, do they have Ty Johnson at 5.2K is going to be a very popular play. FanDuel, Michael Thomas is the highest rated receiver, which makes no sense. DeAndre Hopkins to me is going to for sure get more run. And this is kind of where things get a little confusing to me. You have a lot of these players on DraftKings that are lower priced than Tyler Lockett, like Keenan Allen, Odell Beckham Jr., T.Y. Hilton. Tyler Lockett at 7.2K is so underpriced. DK Metcalf is a little overpriced on FanDuel for me. He's a better play on DraftKings. But Tyler Lockett is a lock on FanDuel at 7.2K. Now, moving down a little bit more, you're going to see players like Kenny Stills at 5.7K, which I really enjoy. And then, like I said, you're going to see Calvin Ridley at 5.4K, who we talked about since Mohamed Sanu's out. If Matt Ryan plays, you're going to be able to really look for Calvin Ridley to get an expanded role. And then, of course, arguably the most important player today is going to be Kiki Kuti, who exploded the last time Will Fuller was completely out of the lineup. Definitely is going to get an expanded role. And then, same thing over here. Still love Hunter Henry, who's more priced than Austin Hooper, which makes me like Austin Hooper a little bit more over on FanDuel. And then moving on to defense, the Rams are the highest price, which they should be based on the matchup. Same price as Patriots, which I still like the Rams here on FanDuel. Let's jump over to Fantasy Draft here, where Russell Wilson is similarly priced here than he is on DraftKings. I think that you can still play Russell Wilson. I still enjoy Russell Wilson a lot. I think that you're going to be able to really just expand your entire team with Russell Wilson in quarterback. Now, this is where things get a little interesting to me. You have players like Phillip Rivers priced lower than Gardner Minshew. You have players like Baker Mayfield priced very low, and that makes me still want to go with the same approach that I did on FanDuel, a more GPP-orientated approach. So, same here on running backs. Love Saquon Barkley, love Todd Gurley. The pricing is very similar. The players that I like, they're just very price similar. I just think you can look for players on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Fantasy Draft. Look for quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. Just a first look. Love Saquon Barkley, love Todd Gurley, love Ty Johnson. Wide receivers, I love DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Kenny Galladay, and then tight ends, I love Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. I think these are the top plays on today's slate that you're really, really, really going to want to target. So with that being said, appreciate all the support we've been receiving on the videos and appreciate the support we've received on the fantasy draft announcement. Hope you guys enjoyed this first look video. You're going to see me on Thursday for the breakdown of the Vikings and the Redskins. We're going to crush that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this first look and it kind of gave you an idea of where we will be going. You will see me on Sunday as well for the showdown and the public live stream for NFL. So with that being said, good luck to everybody. Hope this helped a little bit. I'll be active in the Discord if any of the members have any questions, and I will see you on Thursday for the Thursday night showdown slate. Peace.